This is Nick.
I'm Nick.
He's been a good friend of mine for years, and he's always down to help with any of my builds, from routine maintenance to restoring rust buckets. He's always willing to help without much complaint.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So when he and his dad, Russ, told me that they had purchased an MR2 for a track car, I was ecstatic to help build it. So here's the plan. Source some top tier parts, blow up the engine. Oh, what is that?
Oh no!
Wait, blow up the engine? That's not part of the plan. Oh well, replace that blown up engine with a newer engine, install that new engine, boost it, tune it, track it, let's go. Our worn out and blown up 1ZZ is finally out of the car, and we can prep the new 1ZZ FE for reinstallation. There's a ton of useful info in this video, especially at the end, so be sure to stick around. You won't want to miss it.
Okay, it's tapping time.
Breaking news.
So the engine we went with is the 1ZZ FE out of a 2008 Corolla. It features improved oil control holes and rings, and of course it's fresh, so no scored up cylinders, and should not have any oil issues. We have to swap over a few main components from the old engine, but before that, let's clean up this smelly smile maker. Who wrote this? Caleb. Well, everybody loves a good power wash montage.
I can't believe how good this thing looks. This is incredible.
So some of the standard things that need to be moved over are the power steering idler pulley, since we don't have a power steering pump. We chose to replace the water pump, thermostat, and timing chain tensioner, and then the necessary gaskets that go along with it. Those were all pretty easy to take care of, but what we do want to highlight is the carrier bearing. All right, the time has finally come to drill and tap the block. Now, if you were switching from an MR2 or Celica engine, like this one, over to a Corolla Matrix Vibe engine, you probably heard about this, I would hope. Probably the most daunting part of the job. We have, on the MR2 and the Celica, a carrier bearing. So this is your axle shaft, and it has a carrier bearing in here just because of how long it is and to keep the angles right. And this slides onto here, and that's where the carrier bearing sits in this carrier bearing bracket. Well, the carrier bearing bracket normally goes right here. But as you notice, the spots are there, but the holes are not. So here's our original engine, and here are the 3 holes, as well as the 2 pins to help align it. So we're missing all of that. So the goal here is to drill and tap these holes into the new block. What we're gonna use is just a basic tap and drill bit. This is a 10 mil 1.25. Now, it seems daunting, but I am going to try to prove otherwise. So I'm actually gonna put the axle back into the transmission to see if that helps us align this. So you do have to make sure that the carrier bearing itself is lined up with the bracket. It has pin on both sides. Actually, nope, it has pin just on the top. And that goes into the pin hole here. and that will help you align these two and then collectively push the whole thing into the transmission. There we go. There we go. Nice. And make sure this is all the way in. So it's actually comparing where the brackets were between the two engines, and I noticed there's actually a decent amount of space between the side of this embossed area and where you can see the old bracket was. And so I was just thinking that maybe it's possible this shaft could be too far in. Probably not. I'm not actually sure what it looks like in there. So I tapped this a little bit this way just to give it a little more space. And I figure in case this does bottom out in there, it'll give it a little more free space just for when it all expands and contracts and stuff. So a little bit, you can see there's a little space between the edge of the embossed area and the bracket. And I kind of have it flush with the top, although that really doesn't move at all. So there you go. You can see what it looks like. I'm going to mark the drill bit, figure out how far in we can go here. There we go. There we go, and that's all the way in. So we know not to go any deeper than that. Let's make sure all three are the same. Yes. Yes, they are. Key when you're drilling and tapping, obviously it's important that you're going in straight, but it's super important that you don't wallow it out at all, because then there'll be no room for the threads. So you need to, once you're in, you gotta just go for it. I'm trying to figure out, I actually made the mark on my drill bit without the bracket. So now, with the bracket there, I don't know how deep to go. Got the thickness of the bracket, and we're gonna add the thickness of the bracket to here. Alright, and now I cannot get to this one. What I am going to do is drill a small pilot hole right in the middle, just eyeball it, just give me a little reference point. Separated. Nice. Okay, it's tapping time. So this is just a basic tap handle. You can get nice ratcheting, special ones. But we're just gonna use the basic and then some good old cutting oil. Okay, some basic rules for tapping. Make sure there's plenty of cutting oil on the threads inside the hole. Make sure that it's clean beforehand. And of course, you're gonna want to do like 2 or 3 turns and then back off a little bit. Just to help clear the chips and everything, and then repeat. Here we go. Why not? Can't have too much, you know? And back it off a little bit, and then it gets a little easier. Back it on. And so we already got the holes, the depth that we want. I'm just gonna go until this essentially stops. Aluminum is great. It is so soft. It is incredible. There we go. Helps get the chips out. This is just a little brake clean. I'll only clean it. There we go. It's funny, yeah. Normally factory holes, they have a little bit of a bevel on the entrance, so it looks like it'll fit. These, whenever you do a fresh tab, it never looks like it's gonna fit. It looks like it's too big for the hole, and then it just somehow catches. Look at that. Let's see how well we did in terms of straightness. Oh, that's going in perfectly. Beautiful. Looks pretty straight to me. Nothing special. All right, I would say that was not too bad. That was not nearly as daunting as I was expecting it to be. I just took my time, was careful, and really didn't have any issues at all. You know, just in my research, I found that some people were saying that these embossed areas needed to be ground down. They were saying that since these were machined flat, that you might need to, you know, take like a grinder and lower one of these areas to get them all in the same plane. I would say I did not have that issue. They all seem perfectly flat. As I was tightening these, it's not like it was you know, bending it out of shape or anything. Like all three are perfectly in plane and tightened down just fine. So I certainly didn't have that issue. I also saw some people were actually drilling holes for these guide pins. I also don't see any reason for that. But I'm certainly no engineer. But I know that lots of people do this without drilling the guide pins, and I haven't heard of anyone having an issue. Realistically, the clamping force of all three, I believe that's what's doing all the work, not these little guide pins. I would assume that's just for aligning it before you tighten it, but yeah, I don't know. Everything seems to be fine. It's all the way in. Didn't have any issue sliding the axle in. So again, yeah, I did 47 foot-pounds on all the bolts, used lots of Loctite, and that is it.
Like the absolute legend that Nick is, he made that look really easy. Very intimidating job, but as you guys can see, it's well worth it, and as long as you take your time, should be just fine. Because we will be pushing this little MR2 to its limits, we will need a clutch that can handle the power increase. If you don't have a good foundation, you will just have to come back soon after to get it fixed after it breaks. And we may as well tackle it while we have easy access and the engine is out of the car. We went with the ACT Extreme TC2-XTSS clutch and Fidanza flywheel. This should be more than enough for our power goals.
What's up with this throwout bearing here?
Okay. So we can see that it just slides right out. These clips
Yep.
slide right into grooves in the back here.
Okay, right on the fork there.
That's it. There are grooves right here. Pieces just
Yeah. It's a lot
Slide right
easier
on.
than that's a lot easier than the Jeep was. Important swap information. PSA. Breaking news.
Here, so for the, this is a later generation 1ZZ, and that means it has a 2-wire knock sensor. It looked like this, 2 wires.
Yep.
And this actually goes onto this stud, and the stud goes into the back of the engine, right, or actually the front of the engine, right behind the intake manifold.
right.
But we need to convert it over to
Right here.
a 1-wire. This is for the MR2 Spyder. It's a lot thicker. I thought it didn't fit, but in fact, if you use 2 nuts here, tighten them together so that you can get this whole stud out, haha, it gets thicker in there.
Yeah, it
and
does.
this 1-wire will actually screw right in there. So this is your knock detector, and that'll be for your MR2 Spyder ECU.
Very nice. So
Yep,
niche information.
indeed.
Once that's out of the way, it's just a matter of reattaching the wiring harness and popping the engine back into its place.
All right, Nick, you ready to start her up for the first time?
Ready.
Let's check it out.
Oh, my clutch pedal.
What?
It's gone.
Fell on the floor?
It's just like disappeared. Okay, well, all right, I guess I don't need to hold that.
There you go. She runs.
Wow.
Some-
Congratulations, you got it to
It
run.
is noisy.
The exhaust, is it off?
Yeah, it's off.
It's
It's-
non-existent at the
You got a
moment.
massive leak.
Yeah, very much so.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I was in the front just saying goodbye to Chloe, and all of a sudden I hear it fire up, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh god, that hurts. Yay.
She'll be quieter. This is great.
So, yeah,
Oh, what do you think, Nick?
I think it's good.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
It sounded healthy.
It did.
Ready? Out of sight.
Oh,
Out of mind. Out of mind. We got the engine in the car. The car is on the ground. Wheels are on. Suspension's back up. We have a little bit of an exhaust on here.
A little bit.
And we just added some coolant. We double checked for any clips and connections, any hoses. Also, worth mentioning, Nick did paint this support bar here, and looks pretty good. You did a great job, Nick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, we're gonna start this thing, and we're gonna drive this thing, and then we're gonna park it. We're gonna tear it all apart again for the next part in this series, where we start adding all the turbo bits, and it should be fantastic. So be sure to subscribe. On the shift.
So we have to expect a very different feel. Just like that. All right. hitting anything?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, you're good. Is it like very stiff or what?
It catches like, there's
no question that it catches?
yeah, there's no subtlety to it.
Gotcha.
It can.
What do you-
It's great.
Go ahead and check now. It sounds fantastic.
Wow.
That sounds great, actually.
That's a typical four-cylinder sound.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't think
probably
that's-
normal.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
So
anything.
it needs to, the ECU needs to figure itself out.
Sounds great.
It does.
Yeah, it sounded really good. Other than that first time into reverse, when it was really crunchy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Think it's got enough clutch fluid?
I think we need blinker fluid.
I think we need to take an exhaust sample. I'll get a plastic bag.
All right.
It sounds really good. They say it's shifting really good, so that's awesome. There's a little bit of a grinding noise in reverse. Not sure what that's all about, but we're just gonna monitor that. Maybe it was just because it was the first time with the new clutch. I don't know, but we'll check into that. But super excited to see it actually on the road, driving up and down, and pretty soon we're gonna park it so that we can disable it, take it off the road again for a few more, I don't know, days, a week, 2 weeks. I don't know how long it's gonna take. All right, guys, so we're super excited at the progress so far. We got the old engine out, the new engine is in. You know, the blown engine, it's a sad story, but you know, we did it in a pretty long time. Yeah. But we did run into some hitches, and hopefully you guys learned a few things along the way with things that we stumbled on. So if you're trying to do this swap, it's not the most popular one, but you know, it could be a very convenient or price appropriate one for somebody who might not have the cash to go with like a 2ZZ, or maybe there's not one available, maybe not with the miles that you want. So if you want to go with this route, we hope that this video kind of helped you identify some things you might run into and you can prepare for. But Nick took it out for a drive, rusted too behind the scenes here. So what did you guys think of the drive? You know, it looked like it was shifting fine. It sounded good. So
yeah, it was excellent. The clutch feels really good. It's aggressive. It catches really quick.
Yeah.
Shifting feels about the same. Power's about the same.
Yeah,
but it sounds good. Doesn't blow smoke.
Yeah, we were kind of wondering if that was going to be a factor, because the old motor, we didn't know if it was tired and you know, kind of worn down. And even though the newer engine, you said it was like a 10 horsepower loss.
Yeah, probably most of that's the tuning between the Corolla and the Spyder.
Yeah.
But technically the head is a little different on this one, the FE versus the FED, which comes in the Japanese models.
Yeah.
So there could be a little difference there. We also have the old mid-pipe, which has the cat in it, which has years of oil burning junk through it. So I am sure that thing is very clogged up. So that could have a big impact.
Definitely. All right, guys, so we're super excited to go on to the next phase of the build, which is pulling the car in here, tearing it all apart again. We already made sure everything works, so that's good. But we're going to be jumping into installing all the turbo bits, which is super exciting. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sweet. You just nailed that.
Did I?
You're good at that.
That was amazing.